Om Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om. We are in the middle of the 13th chapter of the Gita. This is also called Kshetra, Kshetrajna, Vibhaga Yoga. And this part, what we have studied, in fact, the entire 13th chapter is one of the, or is the most difficult chapter among all the chapters in the Bhagavad Gita. Because we have a little time today, in the next 3 minutes, I will just try to sum up the important points of the 13th chapter. 13th chapter being so difficult, it is very important that we spend extra time to see what is the message of Sri Krishna that we have got in this chapter. I think it is in the 18th chapter, Sri Krishna has mentioned that if you attend a Gita discourse, even a class like this, any Gita class, you get so much punya that it is more than going to Kashi, going to Kailash. Just attending a Gita satsang itself has a lot of punya. And therefore, if you listen to the Bhagavad Gita, and even if you don't understand anything, there is a certain amount of punya that takes you to Swarga, that is guaranteed. But if you are able to understand the Gita, in particularly the 13th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, in fact, there is a verse in this chapter itself. He says, my bhaktas will attain to me. Mad bhakta, you attain to me. So it is important to see what is the message of the 13th chapter. Can I understand the message that Sri Krishna has given? Can we recall right from the first verse? Imagine in the battlefield, Arjuna is asking in the middle of the, the 12 chapters are over. And he says, oh Krishna, can you tell me what is Kshetra? What is Kshetrajna? What is Jnana? What is Neyam? What is Purusha? What is Prakriti? From where does he get all these ideas? We do not know. We know if the original Bhagavad Gita does not have these questions. You will see whenever there is a shift from one Shatkam to another, the topics are totally different. And because the topics are so totally different, it is not based on any Arjuna's question. And now we know how this question came up. This question is an add-on by Madhusudana Saraswati, very musical. And when you're chanting, it becomes very nice. There is a question and Shri Krishna answers. But in the original, this question is not there. Krishna on his own tells Arjuna, I want to tell you these things. I want to tell you about Kshetra, about Kshetrajna, about Jnana, what is Jnana. And he says, this knowledge between Kshetrajna and Kshetram, this distinction is so important in my experience. This distinction is what is called Drik Drishya Viveka. Swamiji has told us somewhere, and I want you to remember again and again, there are two fundamental principles of Vedanta. And Swamiji has insisted, if these two fundamental principles are understood and internalized, Vedanta becomes clear. If these two fundamental principles are not understood and internalized, we will make attempts, and that is why I'm bringing in these fundamental principles today. Many times I wondered where Swamiji got these two fundamental principles, and today suddenly I realize it is from the 13th chapter itself. In the 13th chapter itself, Sri Krishna says, there are two things that I want you to know. Whatever you experience around them is called Kshetra, and in the Drik Drishya, it is called Drishyam. And he says the one who is observing all of them is called Kshetrajna. Then he, in the same 13th chapter, he says these two things are very important. And then he begins to elaborate. This body is called Kshetram. And then using the Sankhya theory, he begins to elaborate all these factors. For some reason, he does not elaborate on Kshetrajna, except saying, Kshetrajnam chapi mam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata. That means now we have got two fundamental principles. All that I can see and experience is Kshetram. I am other than any of these, which means the Kshetram has got all the gunas, have all the attributes. I, the Kshetrajna, the observer, is none other than Shri Krishna, principle himself. and I am nirguna. I have no attributes as far as time is concerned. That means I was there from the very beginning, if there is a very beginning. I have no limitations in space. Because of my affinity or connection to my body, I have limitations seemingly with this body, but my real me has no limitations in space. I am all pervading. I have no limitations as far as this body. Now, if this is understood, we have understood everything. After speaking about all this, in the 13th to the 18th chapter, which we have discussed last week, we've had these are some of the most important verses, 13th to the 18th. And this was what Sri Krishna calls this as Gneyam. Again and again, he insists, what is Gneyam? Gneyam means that which is worth knowing. And before he comes to the chapter of Gneyam, he gives 20 important gunas that we need to have, 20 important virtues. Essentially, those 20 important virtues can be brought out as sadhana chatushtaya sampanna. If you have those, then you will be able to understand what is Gneyam. What is 14th verse, which last time Dr. Jagdish explained, is where you need to understand that this world is as existence, that I am there in everybody as in the form of existence. And in the last verse, that is the 18th verse, which Dr. Sundar explained, is I am there as consciousness. In between, Sri Krishna makes a play that, where these are all googly verses which are very difficult to understand. I would say at some stage, maybe before we conclude this chapter, we will take an extra day or a part of the day where we will try to understand. This is based on the hint that Dr. Ravi Shankar said last time, that verses 13 to 18, we need to re-look. And I will say we will re-look, because in the last chapter it was all over. We are coming to the 19th verse. The 19th verse is also another very critical and important verse. Kirti, can you explain this verse to us?
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Chapter 13, verse 19. Iti kshetram tata jnanam gneyam choktam samasataha madbhaktaha etad vignaya madbhavaya upapadyate. The translation is, I have thus revealed to you about the nature of the field, the meaning of knowledge, and the object of knowledge. Only my devotees can understand this in reality, and by doing so, they attain my divine nature. Swami Paramarthananda says that in this verse, Sri Krishna is consolidating what has been taught so far in chapter 13, Kshetra Kshetrajna Vibhaga Yoga. Sri Krishna states, I have spoken to you about Kshetra, Gnana, and Gneya. If you realize this truth, you become free. You become one with me. Mad Bhaktaha Etat Vignaya, my devotee realizing this truth, that within this body is the infinite Atman, Mat Bhavaya Upapadyate, becomes one with me. To understand this verse better, let us refresh our memory about the 6 topics Arjuna wanted to understand from Sri Krishna: Prakriti, Purusha, Kshetra, Kshetrajna, Gnanam, and Gneyam. Swami Param's commentary on chapter 13 elaborates about them. He says the topics Kshetram and Prakriti imply the same and are equal to Anatma. The topics Kshetrajna, Purusha, and Gneyam talk about the same principle generally referred to as Atman, Brahman. Jnanam he explains separately. Kshetram, the field, is Anatma, and it includes the world plus body-mind along with all their conditions and Maya. Anatma is Achetanam, Sagunam, Savikaram, and undergoes fluctuations and modifications from Karya or Vyakta Avastha to Karana or Avyakta Avastha. An experienced universe, Anatma, presupposes the presence of the experiencer subject. This unobjectifiable experiencer principle is called Atma Kshetrajna. Its features are as follows. I, the observer consciousness principle, who objectifies the body and mind, am not a part, parcel, product, or property of the body. I am an independent entity who pervades and enlivens the inert body kshetram. I am not limited to the boundaries of the body or to the collapsing of this medium. I am all-pervading, enlivening, nirguna, nirakara, sarvagataha, akhandam, achalam, ekam, asangam, sarvadhara, and sarva prakasha tattvam. Sri Krishna has stated, know me to be one kshetrajna in all the kshetras. Kshetra, kshetrajnayo, gnanam yat, tat gnanam matam mama. Knowledge of kshetra, kshetrajna together constitute the totality of all knowledge that proclaims that there is only one pure self in all beings, and realize the eternal truth of unity and non-duality of consciousness, Atma, Anatma Viveka, and Atma Ekatva Vidya. Sri Krishna continues that this can happen only if my devotee has cultivated Jnanam, a dharmic way of life. He has enumerated 20 values as Jnanam in the previous verses, and Swami Param presents these values as Sadhana Chatushtaya Sampatti, which include discrimination, dispassion, discipline, and desire. Discrimination means the understanding that Ishvara Tattvam alone can give peace and security. Dispassion is the understanding that Ishvara Tattvam should be primary priority and the world subservient. Discipline is the integration and self-mastery of the entire personality, physical body, sense organs, organs of action and knowledge, mind and intellect, and the desire for spiritual knowledge. In the second half of this verse, Sri Krishna says, Bhakti is an important qualification for gaining this Atma Jnana. Without devotion, Jnanam does not take place. For a non-devotee, knowledge remains just information and no transformation takes place in his personality. Sri Krishna says, Mat Bhakta, he must be my devotee, that is Ishvara Bhakta. Etat Vignaya, such a devotee will necessarily gain Atma Jnanam, as devotion will refine his intellect. Mat Bhavaya Upapadyate, he will also attain the same nature as mine. Just as I am ever free, he will also discover the eternal freedom which is his nature. Mat Bhavaha means Ishvara Bhavaha. Bhavaha means Swarupam. Mat Bhavaha, Ishvara Swarupam means Purnatvam. This Purnatvam is the benefit of this knowledge. Therefore, Sri Krishna says, Mat Bhavayo Papadyate. He will become qualified to be one with me. Thank you, sir. Hari Om.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Kirti, madam, for a very nice explanation of a very critical verse. And to all of us, it is Sri Krishna saying again and again that we have to know this. If you know this, you have known all that there is to be known. I have a little question now. Now, whenever we are studying any new topic, any new text, in the beginning, the teacher will always directly or indirectly bring out something. What is that called? Anybody who has the answer can quickly unmute and answer that. Whenever a new topic, whenever a new text is being introduced, the teacher will always, in our scriptural text, they introduce a certain concept. What is that called?
Upakrama Upasamhara. Upakrama Upasamhara.
It is called curiosity.
Upakrama Upasamhara.
Anything else?
It is called Tattva Bhava.
tattva
Anything
bhava of
else?
the
Vishaya.
Kutuhala.
No.
Adhikari.
Upakrama upasamhara.
Upakrama, upasamhara is introduction. All right. Something else.
Kalam.
No.
Lead verse.
Anubandha.
Ata.
You have to unmute and speak. Okay, I'll answer it now.
Kutuhala.
No.
Kutuhala.
No. These are, I'll give you four things. There are 4 things that you should know before you study any particular topic. What are those 4?
Ideal study.
Adhikari.
Anubandha
Right.
Chatushtaya.
What is that?
Anubandha Chatushtaya.
Right.
Anubandha
Okay.
Chatushtaya.
Now please mute yourself. That is right. So before you start any particular topic, there are 4 things you need to know, and that is called Anubandha Chatushtaya. What is these Anubandha? See, there are commentators on this particular verse that Kirti has explained, that because now we are in a transition of this topic. We are moving from Kshetra, Kshetrajna, Jnanam to Purusha and Prakriti. So before we go to Purusha and Prakriti, Shri Krishna is introducing a verse which brings in who is the Adhikari, what is the Vishaya, what is the Prayojan, and what is the Sambandha. To understand this topic of Kshetra, Kshetrajna, Purusha, Prakriti, you should be Mad Bhakta. You should have devotion. Unless there is devotion, these topics are extremely difficult to understand. What is the Vishaya? We are talking about Kshetra, Kshetram, Kshetrajna, Jnanam, Neyam, Purusha, and Prakriti. This is the topic that is going to be discussed. Now, this is all there in this verse. If you can go back to this verse. What is the prayojan? It is Mad Bhavaya Upadayate. You attain to my nature. You attain to moksha. Krishna is promising in the verse this Kirti just explained that if you have understood till now, you attain to my state. And the Sambandha is a clear understanding of this topic. I will go back. You can see all this Adhikari, Vishaya, and the Prayojan is given in this particular verse. We enter into a variation of the new topic where we come into what is this Prakriti, what is Purusha. Madhu, can you please explain this to us?
Gurubhyo Namaha. Prakritim Purusham Chaiva Vidhyanadi Ubhavapi Vikaranscha Gunaschaiva Vidhi Prakriti Sambhavan. Meaning, know thou that matter, Prakriti, and spirit, Purusha, are both beginningless, and know thou also that all modifications and qualities are born of Prakriti. So before we go a little bit deeper into this particular verse itself, it is important to get a context to the verse. Up till now, as we all know, 13th chapter until 18, towards the end, is the beginning of Jnana Yoga, while chapter 13, 14, and 15 in specific is the essence of Upanishads in particular, very important from philosophical aspect. This chapter begins with a question from Arjuna, as we heard from Kirti. Clarification regarding 6 technical terms, Prakritim, Purushaha, Kshetram, Kshetrajna, Jnanam, Neyam. And again, as we heard from Kirti, how Swamiji simplifies this into 3 aspects, Atma, Anatma, and Jnanam. So coming back to this verse, Krishna discusses last 2 topics which he has not discussed earlier. They are Purushaha and Prakritihi. And Krishna wants to discuss this together because they are closely connected. As Kshetram and Kshetrajnaha earlier are closely connected, and this Prakriti and Purushaha are very similar to Kshetram and Kshetrajna. While Kshetram represents matter principle, Kshetrajnam represents consciousness principle. Vedanta takes consciousness as an independent principle because, as we have seen, Vedanta does not look upon consciousness as part or product of a matter, and therefore it is enumerated as a separate entity. Swamiji continues with comparison of consciousness itself with Prakasha and Akasha for our understanding, wherein both are Ekam, Achalam, Akhandam, Asangam, Sarva Sadhana. Here we may remember the example of a fan functioning. In our understanding, there are two principles. One is a visible fan, the other one the invisible electricity, a separate principle. Similarly, when I look at you or me, it is a mixture of two principles, a visible matter principle and invisible consciousness principle. As Krishna explains in 7th chapter, Krishna used the word para prakriti, the consciousness principle, and apara prakriti, the matter principle. Now, same Krishna is discussing again in the name of Purushaha and Prakritihi. Purusha meaning Chaitanya Tattvam, an independent consciousness principle, and Prakriti, the matter principle. In conclusion, matter, Prakriti, and spirit, Purushaha, are both beginningless. Matter and spirit are the two aspects of Ishvara, the Lord. As the Lord is eternal, it is but natural that his nature, matter and spirit, should also be eternal, meaning beginningless. It is these two in their interplay that project creation, continue to preserve it, and dissolve the universe created by them. Thus, the play of matter and spirit is the cause of samsara, and the substratum for them both is the Lord himself. Hari Om. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Madhu, for a nice explanation. As you rightly said, these are all Upanishadic wisdom coming in the Bhagavad Gita. And that is why a little bit of understanding of the Upanishads will help to understand these particular verses. We have learned from Tattva Bodha that there are two things which are anadi, which are beginningless, and that is Purusha and Prakriti. Both these of them, like matter cannot be created and destroyed, so matter has always been there. Only thing it could have been in an unmanifest form. Unmanifest Maya, unmanifest matter is called Maya. When these two things come together, it is Ishvara. The Upanishads and all Upanishads talk about creation, which is being talked about in this verse. Whenever the Purusha and Prakriti come together, the creation comes into being. Now, there are more prakriyas. Prakriyas means teaching techniques. One teaching technique which is being brought in this verse is called Srishti and Anupravesha. Srishti means when Purusha and Prakriti come into being, the world comes into being. And in the world is made up of, which is inert. Now, if the human being has to come, this is what is called Anupravesha. Whenever the Purusha Prakriti enters into through the form of the mind, it becomes enlivened. Now, then this verse and the next of these two verses, subsequent verses, are talking about creation. Now, from now on, we always need to remember that all of us are a mixture of Purusha and Prakriti. When you say Purusha, it is the consciousness principle. And remember, the consciousness principle is like space all pervading. But when Prakriti comes, it is like you have built a wall around it. So a wall has been built around that space. And because of the space, a wall around me, there is a sense of I am limited by the wall. But can the walls ever limit space? Because space is always there. Because of my identity with this, all my suffering and all samsara has to be there. Now, if I identify with the all-pervading space within this limited house, then I have no samsara whatsoever. So all these will come in the beautiful next few set of verses. We will go to Vikram. Vikram, can you explain this verse and see what I'm trying to bring about?
Gurubhyo Namaha. Karya Karana Kartatve Hetu Prakriti Puncha Chayate Purusha Sukha Dukkhanam Bhoktratve Heturu Chayate. So everything already Madhusudan and Sir has explained that the 13th chapter is basically we can, out of 6 words, we can convert them into 3 words: Atma, Anatma, and Gnana. So everything in the creation is born out of Prakriti, which includes body-mind complex also. So Karyam means the body. It is a technical meaning for Stula Shariram. Karanam in this context means the Sukshma Shariram. So Kartatva means in the creation. So who is the contributor? Prakriti Hetu Pruchayate. Prakriti alone does create all these things. Means the body, the mind, and even the world. We can divide into Karanam and Karyam. The Panchabhutani is the Karanam and Bhautikams is the Karyam. So everything in this, so experience world is Prakriti, experience body is Prakriti, experience mind is Prakriti. If everything experienced is Prakriti, so where is this blessed Purusha? So we go on searching this Purusha. So the Krishna says, do not search for the Purusha, because the Purusha is the experiencer. So that which is ever the subject of experience and never the object of experience, that I am the Purusha, Aham Brahmasmi. Krishna says, Purusha Sukha Dukkhanam Bhoktratve Heturuchayate. Purusha is not located anywhere as an object. The Purusha, I, the very subject, who is enclosed in the material body, who is enclosed in the material mind, that consciousness is the Purusha. The Purusha, Krishna says, Purusha is Bhokta, means Bhokta is the witness, the subject experiencer principle. Therefore, he is the experiencer of Prakriti. Prakriti means body and mind complex, and as well as all the conditions of the body-mind complex, like Sukha, Dukkha, even Raga, Dvesha, Kama, everything belongs to the Prakriti. So all the important law in Vedanta is all the observed property can belong to the observed object alone. The observed properties can never belong to the observer subject. So the observer is always property free. For example, we can, even though the camera photographs we have taken, the camera is never seen, but we always know that the camera exists. Similarly, the eye can see everything, but I cannot see itself. So, but we know that the eye exists. Similarly, the subject does not require any proof. It is like the 10th man story. So, where is the Purusha? I am the Purusha, the consciousness. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Vikram, for a nice explanation. Essentially, that is what we need to claim, that I am the Purusha. And because of my proximity with the Prakriti, there is a tendency to identify, and therefore all this pleasure and pains and the limited Karta, Bhokta and all comes into being. The next verse explains this in a little more. And Vindhya, can you explain this verse?
Yeah, Doctor, I'll be doing this.
Please go ahead.
Purusha prakirtisto hi bhunte prakriti jana gunan karanam guna sangosya sad asadyo nijamasu. Residing in Prakriti, Purusha experiences the gunas born out of Prakriti. Attachment to the gunas is the cause of birth in superior and inferior homes. In the previous verse, Dr. Vikram explained about the Purusha. Lord Krishna explains that the Purusha is responsible for experience of pleasure and pain. Now he explains how this is so. Coming to the first line of the verse, Lord Krishna says, Purusha prakriti so hi bhungte prakriti jnana guna. The word bhungte means witness. Even though the literal meaning of the word bhungte is experience, the word experience should be understood as witness for whatever happens to the body and the mind. The witnessing or illumining the body-mind complex is the job of Purusha. Now, Purusha Prakriti Staha. Prakriti means Shariram and Prakriti Staha means enclosed within the Shariram or the body-mind complex. Therefore, the two products of Prakriti are the body-mind complex container called Prakriti and Prakriti Staha means enclosed within the body-mind complex. This is like what Dr. Hegde just explained. This is like building a house where walls enclose the space and enclosed space is useful for living. Enclosed space is a must for Vyavahara Yogyam. Similarly, the all-pervading consciousness, when it is enclosed within the body-mind complex, is called Prakritistaha, Purusha Sakshi Chaitanyam. Now let us go to the second line. Sada Satyoni Janmasu Karanam. Sad Asad Yoni Janma means Samsara Chakram. The word Yoni must be read twice here. Sat Yoni and Asad Yoni. Sat Yoni means good Shariram. Asad Yoni means inferior body or inferior Shariram. So Sat Yoni means superior body or better Janma, taking higher birth of Devas, for instance. Asad Yoni means inferior body and thus Punarapi Jananam, Puranapi Maranam, taking lower birth of animals, plants, asuras, in short, the entire samsara chakram. What is the cause of this samsara chakram? Lord Krishna says, Guna Sangha eva adya samsarasya karanam. Guna means the attributes of the body-mind complex. To that attributes which belong to Prakriti, I get attached. Finally, Prakriti Gunena Sangaha. Sangaha means identification. Tadatmyam, qualitative identification or qualitative equality, or Tan Mayatvam, being observed in that particular role. Swami Param gives a beautiful example of a hero in the movie who plays a role as a husband as well as get completely absorbed in this role. And when the heroine dies, this person also cries as though his wife is dead. Just as nothing happens to the space when the wall is pulled down or when the walls are raised, Akasha remains the same. Similarly, I, the Purusha, the Chaitanyam is the same whether the body-mind complex dissolves or wall comes down or wall is raised. And Purusha does not have Janma. It is Na Jayate Mriyate Va Kadachit. It has neither birth nor death. It is unborn. It is eternal, all-pervading, and we have seen this in chapter 2. Just as nothing happens to the space when the walls are removed or raised. So, instead of claiming this Purusha as myself, I identify with Prakriti and suffer. Hari Om.
Thank you, Vishwanath. That is the right explanation. I will try to explain again what you have already said. There is an experiencer in all of us. I experience everything. This experience that is happening is, there are two, like you remember in that Mundakopanishad, there are two birds, that upper bird and the lower bird. The upper bird is pure consciousness. Pure consciousness, if it has to experience the world around, needs a body-mind complex. When it uses the body-mind complex, it becomes a limited experiencer. Now, this is all the problem. The moment I have become a limited experiencer, the huge consciousness that I am begins to identify, as in the example that Vishwanath said about a man watching a movie and he identifies with that character. This is what is called tadatmya. Because of the identification with the role that I am a man, woman, young, old, the Parabrahma Paramatma in me becomes, as he said, Sad Yoni, Asad Yoni. You become a very limited person. So the whole Vedantic understanding, the whole Upanishadic understanding is the consciousness in you should tell you that when I'm a mixture of body, mind, and consciousness, identify the consciousness, play the role of this limited body, mind. all the time being anchored in the higher self. This is the same message whether it is in Kaivalya Upanishad or in the Bhagavad Gita. So here the Bhagavad Gita speaking the Upanishadic language. This is elaborated much more in the next verse, and you see an elevation from the lower bird to the upper bird. Suman, if you can explain this to us.
Gurubhyo Namaha. Upadrashtanumanta cha bharta bhokta maheshwaraha paramatmeti chapyuktaha dehesmin purusha paraha. Here, Lord Krishna is training us so that we can disidentify from the Prakriti, enclosure, and learn to identify with the Purusha. Krishna says, Asmin Dehe Purusha, that Purusha Tattvam, that which is Nirguna, Nirvikara, Satya, Chetana Tattva, that Purusha which we should not go in search of for it everywhere. Just like Akasha, which we need not search outside, this body-mind container also has the Purusha in the form of Sakshi Chaitanya, that is I. So this Purusha is different from Prakriti. Coming to the greatness of Purusha, the container, the content consciousness is not only within the body, but extends beyond the container. Take, for example, a hall. We can say that space is within the hall. Later, we can also include outside the hall as space. Finally, we realize that the hall is within this space. Similarly, when it comes to consciousness, it is neither within the body or outside the body, but all the bodies are within the consciousness. That means it is everywhere. That is why it is called Paraha. That means free from limitations. Upadrashta, this Purusha, the consciousness alone, is an intimate witness of everything happening inside you. Like the light. The light may be from the sun or from a bulb, but whatever the source, it illuminates everything. When we say Atma is Sakshi, Atma is a witness, not remaining far away, but Upadrashta, intimately pervading and illuminating the body-mind complex. Even though the source of light may be far away, it illuminates the hand by pervading the hand. The prakasha or shining is the luminosity upon the hand is like a proximal illuminator. Similarly, the Purusha pervades every cell of the body. Basically, these cells are made up of bundle of chemicals. But what makes this bundle of chemicals sentient and alive is because the Purusha pervades and makes this body experienceable. So Upadrashta means close witness. Anumantacha, that which blesses the activities of the Prakriti. Consciousness blesses the inert body and mind, and because of this blessing, body is what it is, just like electricity, which blesses an electrical appliance, for example, a fan. The electricity does not tell the fan what to do. It just supplies electricity and the fan blows the air. Similarly, every organ is built to do a particular function, and all of them function only in the presence of consciousness. And therefore, it is Anugrahata, a blesser. Krishna condenses in one word, Anumanta. So he blesses all the activities, whether it is good, bad, moral or immoral. The consciousness is not going to discriminate whatever be the action. Consciousness blesses it. Therefore, it is called Anumanta. Next is Bharta. Bharta means that which lends existence. Sthiti Karanam. Because Purusha alone is Satyam, having independent existence. Prakriti is Mithya, and therefore it borrows existence from Purusha. And therefore it is Bharta, the sustainer, Karta. Then comes Bhokta. The very same Purusha, I, the Sakshi, is called Bhokta, that is, the experiencer. The emotions, be it pleasure, pain, or anger, belong to Prakriti. We are an illuminator of these. But when you become angry, then you have transferred this attribute to me, the illuminator. And with the transferred attributes, Atma appears as though Bhokta. You seem to be from that attribute. Then what is the real nature of Maheshwara? This Purusha is Maheshwara. Maheshwara means Swatantra, the free one. So body alone is a bound entity because body being Prakriti is affected by other Prakriti. Body is matter, so is the world. Hence, it will be affected by the world around us, like sweating in summer or shivering in winter. Similarly, mind is also matter. The world is also matter, so the mind will also be influenced by the matter. If we were to come across a distressing news, we will get influenced or upset. And therefore, body is bound by Prakriti, the world. The mind is also bound. But Purusha, the Maheshwara, can never get affected by matter principle. And therefore, Purusha is Maheshwara means Swami or Swatantra. That is why, as a body, you're never free. You're affected by all the worldly things. As Maheshwara, I'm ever free. When I learn to separate myself from Prakriti and its attributes, I, the Jivatma, will itself get the name Paramatma. So I am called Jivatma when I take on the attributes of the Prakriti and the worldly things. So the attributed I is Jivatma. But when I take the attributes and realize that they do not belong to me, but they belong to the Prakriti alone, and I give them to Prakriti, I become attributeless. And I'm called Paramatma. An attributed I am called Jivatma. Whether I'm attributed or attributeless will depend upon whether I'm ignorant or wise. Therefore, an ignorant I is Jivatma, a wise I is Jivatma. Thank you.
Thank you, Suman. You will see the trend of giving the message again and again. And hopefully Shri Krishna in so many ways hopes that we'll be able to understand. Thanks, Suman. I want you to see the same words again. This supreme being, this Para Purusha, Asmin Dehe. When this Para Purusha gets involved with Prakriti, we have given 5 or 6 names for it. One is called Upadrashta. Drashta is the observer. Upa means very close by. When I am very close to the object of experience, although the experiencer and the experienced are totally different, there is a tendency to get affected, although it should not happen, but there is a tadatmyam, there is an identification. So you will see the first is when the Purusha is very close to the Prakriti, Upa means like Upanishad, going towards, going close to the teacher. Upadrashta, Anumanta. Anumanta is the one that allows everything to happen. So now you're going, Bharta. Bharta is the one, the Adhara, the supporter. Bhokta. Now, remember, now an experiencer should be like a mirror. A mirror mirrors you. If you stand in front of the mirror, you are seen. But what is the difference between a photographic film and a mirror? A photographic film keeps a permanent record of you and gets affected by you, whereas a mirror sees you and does not get affected. The higher self in us should be like that. I illumine all the good things and the bad things in the world like a mirror, and I don't get affected by it. But if I get identified with my lower self, I become like a photographic film or an X-ray film. Each time I'm exposed to a good event or a bad event, I get affected by that, and that it gets internalized, it creates a vasana, and the whole thing happens. So my option is, am I going to be a photographic film in my life, or am I going to be a mirror? Our teacher says, be an illuminator and not get affected. And that is how we need to see. These are beautiful verses talking about the Purusha aspect within all of us. And if you go from Upadrashta away and away from yourself, you mirror, you become Maheshwara, the great Lord. That is the same as the higher self, the Paramatma. Beautiful verses to meditate upon. We will go to the, now having understood all this, what is the benefit of all this, Neeta? Can you tell us?
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Verse 13.24. With this verse, the last topic of Purusha and Prakriti is completed. Here, Krishna points out, this clear knowledge about Prakriti and Purusha will give us great relief from the burden of samsara. It is a liberating knowledge. Life will not be struggle. It will not be burdensome, gruesome. I internalize this discriminating knowledge. I am Purusha and the attributes belong to Prakriti. Ya evam veti purusham prakriti cha gunai saha sarvatam vartamanopi na sabhayo vijayate. He who thus knows Purusha and Prakriti along with the gunas is not born again, in whatever manner he lives, taking any role. Sir, the slide is not put up. Sir, here, evam veti Purusha. Krishna says, he who knows Purusha clearly. What is this Purusha? We have learnt it is nirguna, nirvikara, beyond the properties and attributes, does not undergo modification, and it is only satyam, the only reality. It is the consciousness principle which lends existence to the world, to the body, and to the mind. And what is this Prakriti? Krishna says, he who knows Prakriti, the Prakriti cha gunai, the Saguna principle. It has attributes. It has properties. Nirvikara, it goes under modification. Mithya, it is dependent on the Purusha for its existence. It is achetana. Itself, it is the matter principle. So one who knows Purusha and Prakriti, one who can distinctly separate them. But note here, this is not a physical separation. It is a cognitive separation. It is internal affairs. When I ask, what do you see? You will first say, you see the hand. Then I will tell you, there are two things here. You see my hand because of the light principle. So there is the hand and the light. Similarly, there is Prakriti and Purusha. He who knows these physical attributes, the young, the old, the good looking, the ugly, they all belong to the Stula Sharira, which belongs to Prakriti. Then when I say I'm angry, I'm anxious, envious, happy, they are Sukshma Sharira, Gunas, again belonging to Prakriti. And the Karana Sharir Guna, that is ignorance, that too belongs to Prakriti. All these attributes belong to the three Shariras, which is Prakriti. So I had a slide which basically, you see the sun setting. When you put the straw in water, the straw appears a little bent. What do you do to correct it? You do nothing. You can't do anything, but you cognitively know that the sun doesn't set. You cognitively know that the straw is not bent, it is straight. Just like the sky is not blue, there's really no water when you see the mirage. So this is all Prakriti. We have to train our mind. This is called Nididhyasanam. What happens then? Krishna says, Sarvata Vartamana Mano Api. Sorry. One can take any role once the transformation has taken place. Life becomes a series of role playing. In Vyavara, I will continue in the Varna ashram, the Grahastha ashram. I will continue with my profession. No need to change my roles, just the inner transformation. Once in a while, I will go to the green room and I will sing. Mano buddhi ankara chitta ninaham na cha shotra jive na grana netre na me dvesha ratau na me dvesha madoneva meneva matsarya bhava chidananda rupa oham shivoham. The one who knows Brahman is Brahman. Sa bhayo na abhijayate. Such a jnani will not be born again. No punarjanma. You may ask, how do you know you will not be born again? Because I know this body-mind complex is Prakriti. Birth and death are only two incidents happening in the plane of Prakriti. Physical body and mind come together is called birth, and mind and body separating is called death. Samyoga and Viyoga is happening at the level of Prakriti. And I am Purusha. I never took birth, and so what about rebirth? Through this wisdom, I don't get liberation. I know, I claim I was liberated. I am liberated. I was never bound. I cannot be a samsari. In summary, he who thus knows Purusha and Prakriti is not born again, and he lives in a manner, in whatever manner, taking any roles. Thank you, Shri Guru.
Thank you, Neeta. I'm very sorry I could not find your slides. I went off the screen share to look for your slides. I could not find it. But what I really appreciate is the conviction that with which you spoke, and every student of Vedanta should have the conviction with which you spoke, that although I am a mixture, although I'm seemingly very ordinary, I know I am extraordinary. There is no birth for me. There is no death for me. And that is how I have to live my life. Live your life with absolute conviction, illuminating the good and the bad in the universe, but all the time remembering that the universe is mithya. I am the only satya that there is. And this is the jnana phala. We have come to that stage where Shri Krishna is telling you the benefit of knowing Kshetra Shretragna Vibhaga Yoga is this benefit, that you claim the Purusha and you claim that I am Purnamada, Purnamidam, Shivoham, Shivoham. Padma, one more beautiful verse on the same lines. Please go ahead.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. In the earlier verses of this chapter, Lord Krishna spoke about the 6 topics that Arjuna wanted to know. Kshetra, Kshetrajna, Jnanam, Jnaneyam, Prakriti and Purusha. From this verse on, he speaks of Jnana Sadhana and Jnana Phalam. Dhyanena Atmani Pashyanti, Kechid Atmanam Atmana, Anye Sankhena Yogena, Karma Yogena Chapti. Translation: some seekers see the Supreme Self in the mind, with the mind, through meditation. Some others through Jnana Yoga. Some others through Karma Yoga. The ultimate goal of all spiritual sadhana is self-knowledge. Atmani means in the mind. Atmana means with the mind. I discover Atma in myself. Atmanam, the self, means Sachidananda Atma. The seeker has to recognize the Atma in his own Hridaya. Atma by itself cannot acquire knowledge. Swami Param says, knowledge is to be acquired only through the instrument of buddhi, a refined buddhi, with the help and aid of Guru Shastra Upadesha. He has to gain knowledge. The seeker has to go to the knower and should become Shruti Parayanaha. Adi Shankaracharya uses the expression Shastra Acharya Samskrita Antakarnena. With the refined mind, Guru Shastra Upadesha, one gains Atma Jnanam. And this happens in 5 stages. The person has to go through 5 stages to reach this culmination. At every stage helps in getting rid of an obstacle. Pratibandha Nivritihi. The 5 stages to remove obstacles are as follows. The removal of obstacles in Karma Yoga stage is the removal of malam or dirt, mental impurities like raga, dvesha, kama, krodha, lobha, etc. The removal of this malam refines the mind. It is termed as karmana mala nivriti. The next stage of sadhana is upasana or meditation upon Saguna Ishvara. This upasana helps in the removal of the next obstacle called vikshepa nivriti or bahirmukha tvam. This integrates and harmonizes the mind and is termed as upasana vikshepa nivriti. The 3rd stage is called the Vedanta Shravanam. Here one studies the Vedanta scriptures under Acharya, which eliminates Ajnanam and self-ignorance. And this stage is termed as Shravanena Ajnana Nivritti. The 4th stage, Mananam, where sadhakas raise questions, clear doubts, converting knowledge into conviction, and thus get rid of the intellectual obstacles. And the 5th and final stage, Nidhidhyasanam, here the sadhaka gets rid of unhealthy vasanas like anxiety, frustration, self-pity, attachment, etc. This vasana nivritti or viparita bhavana nivritti is the final stage called Nidhidhyasanam. Each stage takes a long time, maybe a lifetime or several lifetimes. In chapter 6, verse 43, Lord Krishna says, Tatra tam bhutti samyogam labhate paurva dihitam. God, who is seated within the heart of every living being, is perfectly just. Whatever spiritual assets we had accumulated in the past life, detachment, wisdom, devotion, faith, tolerance, etc., are known to him. So at the appropriate time, he gives us the fruits of our past efforts from the Purva Janma and enhances our spirituality from within in accordance with our previous attainments. This explains why some people harboring materialistic views suddenly become deeply spiritual. When these spiritual samskaras awaken, they get the benefit of their sadhanas of the previous lives through karma yoga. Karma yogena chapri. Swami Param says, if a person dies without completing a particular stage, in the next birth, the journey does not begin from the start, but continues from where he left off earlier. He also talks of spiritual prodigy, one who has gone through the first 4 stages in his Purva Janma. Therefore, in this Janma, he has to go through only the last stage. Even the greatest Jnani has to exhaust his Prarabdha Karma. In Aitareya Upanishad of the Rig Veda, it mentions about Rishi Vamadeva, who had self-realization, knowledge of Atman, Aham Brahma Asmi, in the womb of his mother itself. Aham Brahma Asmi, arriving at this oneness is called Jnana Yoga, otherwise called Vedanta Shravana Mananam Nidhyasanam. A thus liberated person does not move to any world. He gets absorbed in the all-pervading Brahman. Hari Om. Thank you.
Thank you, Padma, for this explanation of another verse where Sri Krishna is trying to tell us, how do you get to know that you are Kshetrajna? How do you get to know you are Purusha? And very nicely, all the sadhanas of Karma Yoga, Upasana Yoga, Shravanam, Mananam, and Nidityasanam through Dhyana is explained in this verse. We have one more verse. Dr. Rekha, can you explain this verse to us?
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. In the verses 25 to 27 of chapter 13, Lord Krishna deals with the subject of Jnana Sadhanani, which are the preparatory disciplines or sadhanas that will lead us to the self-knowledge that was described in the first 24 verses. Padma has described the 5 preparatory steps in detail: Karma Yoga, Upasana Yoga, Vedanta Shravanam, Mananam, and Nididhyasanam. It is understood that all the 5 sadhanas are compulsory for all, with no exceptions, except that if a person has died completing only some of the stages, an advantage is that in the next Janma, his spiritual journey can begin in the next stage. But in reality, and this I come to my verse, there are many who are unaware of the methods of sadhana, but they somehow hear the knowledge from other people. They get drawn to the spiritual path, and this is true of many of us who come to spirituality. So I go on to verse 26, which describes this phenomenon. Anye tvevam ajanantaha shrutvan yebhya upasate tepi chatita rantyeva vrutyum shruti parayanaha. The first line, not knowing thus, ajanantaha evam, some others, anye tu, pursue self-knowledge, upasate, by hearing or listening to others, shrutva anyebhyaha. The second line, being committed to listening, they also, te api, definitely cross over. Eva cha atitanranti, mortality, mrityum. We know that Shravanam is defined as the consistent and systematic study of the scriptures over a length of time under the guidance of a competent acharya. Lord Krishna now tells us that Shravanam need not necessarily be the study of the original scriptures themselves by the student due to the lack of access or other reasons. The text itself, be it the Upanishad, Bhagavad Gita, or Brahma Sutra, is not as important as the teaching or content. So a competent guru need not teach the scripture itself, but because he is competent, he can take the essence of the scripture, distill it, and present it to the student in any language that the student understands. As Swami Param tells us, the wisdom of I am full and complete, Purnam Ada Purnam Idam, it can be couched in any language on earth, and it is still Vedanta. It can be in a lullaby, it can be in a bhajan. The source and form are not important, but the content is. The only rider to this is that the student must have complete faith or shraddha in the words of the Guru. Guru Vakya Shravana Parayanaha. In the second line of this verse, Lord Krishna tells us that such committed students definitely will cross mortality, birth and death, finitude or samsara, which means they attain moksha. Now I'm going to diverge a little bit. The truth of this is borne out in the biography of Nisarga Datta Maharaj, of whom we heard yesterday from Dr. Timappa. His name was Maruti. He had no background of Vedanta, but he chanced to come across a guru who told him, "You are that, you are Narayana." And that transformed him completely. In his book called "I Am That," he recalls, and I'm quoting from that, "My guru ordered me to attend to the sense I am and to give attention to nothing else. I just obeyed because I trusted him. It may look too simple, even crude. My only reason for doing it was that my guru told me so. Yet it worked." So to summarize this verse, what liberates or makes moksha attainable is not the Veda, but the content teaching in the Veda, which has always been accessible to all people at all times, irrespective of their background. Thank you. Hari Om.
Thank you, Dr. Rekha, for a nice explanation of this beautiful verse and also bringing in the experience of Nisargadatta Maharaj, who heard this only once in his life. He never had a chance to meet his guru once again. For some reason, the guru was not there. But he took the guru's words to be gospel truth. You are from now Purusha. You are Kshetrajna. You are Parabrahma Paramatma functioning through a limited body, and be very sure of that. If this message is brought in either through the Vedas or through any other means, that is what this verse saying. Sometimes you see in the Middle East, these Sufi saints who will be speaking, we say Aham Brahmasmi, they will say Anal Haq, I am that. Exactly what Nisargadatta Maharaj. And when you exclaim that I am that, means I am that, here that is a capital T, that I am Parabrahma Paramatma. So in so many ways this wisdom has come to us. The beauty is, let us remain in Satsanga. In Satsanga, what we are reminded again and again, in spite of all the problems in the world, in spite of all the problems in my body, and the problems in my mind and in the world around me, I should never forget my true nature and silently sing Aham Nityaha Shuddhaha Buddhaha Muktaha Shivoham Shivoham Shivaswarupam. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.